And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM New Orleans and 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. How cool is that? And we are also being live streamed wherever podcasts live, so we're not hard to find, including my YouTube channel. So go there and subscribe. To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps, fellow experiencers, and brothers and sisters in Christ, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. What am I? That's probably something I don't want to ask my guest today. You never know what he's going to say. I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother and the abbot for the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. On that note, you got God? Well, if you want to join a church that accepts everybody, and I mean that, accepts everybody, look into the United States Old Catholic Church. You might be pleasantly surprised. And if you have a good relationship with God, but you feel a calling to have a better relationship with Him, reach out to the abbot of the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. That would be me. And we'll talk about this calling of yours. Perhaps the Benedictines are in your future. You never know. What else am I? I'm the co-founder of GhostBegone.biz. And yeah, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents The Legion of Exorcists, which is currently on a world tour, and I'm happy to report doing very well. But if you haven't caught the show yet, you can catch it streaming everywhere. Every streaming service has it. The most popular ones seem to be Travel on Demand and HBO Max, but it's everywhere. And I'm still having people that are discovering the show today reaching out to me with such positive feedback. That means the world to me. So God bless you all for that. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. If you go to the website to visit, brothers and sisters, a lot of cool things there to see. All three of my books are there, including the new paranormal novel, Sweeping the Nation, Help Me, I'm Haunted, which I co wrote with Annette Munich, and I have several contributors that have added to the book, including my guest today. So we might even talk about that a little bit. You can get Help Me, I'm Haunted at Amazon. You can also get it off my website. It comes autographed to you and enclosed in a house blessing kit. You never know when one of those is going to come in handy. And part of the proceeds of everything that you might buy on the website goes to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Nevada, and the ASPCA. How beautiful is that? Get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. So that's a wonderful thing. My online course is there, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. I'm the instructor. There's no other course like it out there. So if you are one of those true warriors for Christ that wants to learn how to draw your line in the sand, make a stand, circle the wagons, and put up a good fight, perhaps the fight of your life against true evil, God forbid if that ever comes calling, that's the course for you. You can enroll in it right there at the website. If you want more information about the course before making that type of commitment, reach out to me. We'll talk about it and see if it's right for you. All my students that graduate get a stunning diploma, certificate of completion suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed gifts that you can only get from yours truly. And it is a 12-week online course. If you happen to be wondering how you take the course, it's all online. There's a place on the website where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues. But most importantly, brothers and sisters, I know times are tough, but remember, my wife and I, we don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So if you're at the website visiting and you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you, it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. Okay, One of the reasons why many of you tune in, and my show is much better when she is here, is my co-host, Annette Munich, owner of Stellium Books, my publisher, lifelong paranormal experiencer, super cool lady. She is under the weather today, so she's going to sit this one out. So no girls allowed in the treehouse today or the clubhouse today. Just me and my buddy, my guest today. But please send healing prayers and positive thoughts Annette's way for a speedy recovery. I hate being sick, and it's going around. So God bless her. We'll miss her today, but she'll be back. I'm confident she'll be back next week. So, on that note, like I said, you guys all know we have a great guest today. That's why you tuned in. I love him and respect him. He's super cool dude. Feels like I've known him forever also. Um, Lifelong paranormal experiencer, elite paranormal investigator, elite debunker. Um, and like I said, just a super cool dude. He is the producer for Unexplained Cases. Great website, great Facebook page, great YouTube channel where he's got all his vids there. Super, super cool page and site to go to and watch all the cool things they do. Brothers and sisters, without further ado, please welcome to the show the one and only, buckle up, Rick Garner.
Heyo! Thank you,
No
sir.
girls in the clubhouse today.
No. See, it's all good. Basically, of course, this problem when I have a background. You don't even know what I'm doing, basically, because it's all it's all kind of fuzzy and weird there, basically. So
I like that though.
I can't raise hands. Well, there we go. There's a little bit. So
Listen, Annette wanted me. She sent me a private message to please send you her apologies. She was so looking forward to catching up with you today and talking to you about some of the topics we have on the slated on the docket to discuss with you today. So I wanted to make sure you know that. And before we get into these topics and anything else you want to talk about, brother, um, let's get the important stuff out of the way. And
Sure.
this not only comes from me, but it comes from fans and followers of yours that have sent me messages before. And another thing, I'll apologize today. Annette is wonderful at checking the comments in the chat room. So feel free, Rick, to, if you can see those, answer anything that you want to answer or say hi to anybody. I better do that real quick here. Hello,
Well,
Michelle.
yeah.
Hello, Golden Cougar Wolf. Michael Chin. Who else is here? Michelle Pratt.
Man,
All of the cool kids are here today, but no girls allowed in the clubhouse. You can be
see,
in the chat room, but you
that's
can't
right.
come in the clubhouse today.
That's right.
Um,
It's all guys show.
and that's very good at doing that. So I will do my best to keep an eye on the chat room. Um, but the most important thing we want to get out of the way first is we're on the topic of health.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing? Everybody knows you went through a health scare,
Mm-hmm.
and we were all praying for you. So how are you doing today?
Well, I am very blessed, and just basically last week I had a 3 month check. 3 months since I came off of hormone therapy, and for those who might just not be in the full scope of things, was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Thankfully, that was caught in time. Ended up having 3 different treatments. Um, Hormone and external radiation, and then also brachytherapy. It was kind of like one of the trifecta, if you will, to basically make sure that it didn't come back. But glory to God that was caught in time. That there is actually a scan now that wasn't available a couple of years ago that could confirm that it hadn't spread. So now that the hormone therapy was done, basically every 3 months now, it's just kind of a check to make sure that it's dead, and it hadn't come back. So just had that for the first time off that, and yeah, PSA is a trace, so therefore it's still dead. So we praiseful for that.
Thank you, Jesus. That's the most important thing of the show today. So now basically we can go ahead and sign off and go
Yep,
home.
yep.
That was right.
Good seeing y'all. Appreciate you. Have an awesome weekend. See ya.
That's such good news, brother. Because I've been there, done that. Not me personally, but my wife Sharon was a three-time cancer survivor. So many years we were just basically walking through the valley of the shadow of death,
Hmm.
and I had to put everything on the back burner, and basically life
Hmm.
as you know it stops, and nobody that has not gone through that will understand that. And
Hmm.
God for I don't wish anybody to go through any type of cancer,
Hmm.
but if you haven't gone through it or had somebody really close to you like a husband or a wife or children or other family members, and that you're right there with helping them fight for their life against that disease or any form of that disease, they don't really know. They can have an idea that
Yep.
they know, but they don't really know. And so Sharon too, she's in the same camp as you,
Hmm.
a three-time cancer survivor, and
Hmm.
it's a big
Amen
deal
for
because
that.
she wasn't expected to survive, and there were times where I really thought, you know, she wasn't going to. So that's a miracle, brother. You are blessed,
Mm.
and I know you're also a family man and a religious man. So um, that's another thing that people who don't really have a strong religious belief system in place. And I'm not trying to get my preach on, but when you are in the life, let's just call it in the life,
Hmm.
close to God, let's say,
Hmm.
a follower of Jesus Christ,
Hmm.
you know when you have experienced some divine intervention,
Absolutely.
and it is what it is.
Absolutely. And that's where, there the short order of that would be, I kind of look at it as like, if you don't know Jesus, there's no time like the present. And then my other PSA, public service announcement, would be to gents or to ladies who know gents, is to encourage them to get their PSAs checked, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what it's about. Is like, it is the most curable cancer, 99% chance of it being curable, but it's all about being caught early. And you won't be able to
Absolutely,
catch it if you don't have a little blood test done.
absolutely, absolutely. So I couldn't be happier for you, brother, and I'm glad you're here today. And another thing I want to get out of the way before we get into some of these topics today was I stalk you all the time,
Hmm.
and I go to your YouTube channel all the time. So I see this. Oh, he's got a new entry here. I think I subscribed to your channel, but I hardly ever go to any of the sites that I subscribe to. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I went there. I periodically go there and check what you
Hmm.
got going on, and I see,
Hmm.
oh, he's got a new video out. Okay,
Hmm.
so I press play. First thing off the bat, I go, "Oh, cool! He hired a professional voiceover narrator guy."
Hmm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Where do I get one of those?"
Yes.
And I'm watching and watching. Finally, about halfway through,
Hmm.
I realized that it was actually you, and you're the
Yes.
one behind the camera. And I'm used to seeing you either in front of the camera or enough in front that we
Hmm.
know it's you. But so that was different for me to
Hmm.
see you in that capacity. You're
Hmm.
excellent cameraman.
Hmm.
You've got those skills also, but you sounded great. You really sounded like one of those professional voiceover guys. And so before we get into some of these topics, I want to talk about that because I get to the end of it and all
Hmm.
of a sudden it's done. I'm like, what? And I realize it's a part one.
Hmm.
So if anybody goes there to Unexplained Cases, the YouTube channel, and watches your latest film,
Hmm.
talk to us a little bit about that location. I just totally love that location. You don't
Hmm.
see teams go into places like that very often. So talk to us about that, when we might see the part two,
Hmm.
and bring people up to speed on that. Because I had some of your fans and followers reach out like me who saw it, and
Hmm.
they want to know all those things about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so this is one of those interesting scenarios. We don't get location requests, as in there are teams, and every situation is different for a team. I mean, there's some teams that don't have channels or produce content. Um, there's some that's kind of like that's their main thrust. That's all they do. We've always existed like in the capacity of, in essence, if you need help, reach out. It's not necessarily something that we promote on any type of consistent basis, but it's also something I haven't withheld, that opportunity yet either. But I noticed, timeline. I'm good to know what I had for lunch today. So timeline would be, I think it was kind of like the early part of this year. I had noticed on one of my an Instagram creator that I follow, She Haunts, at She Haunts, basically, that there's a story that was posted, and the story was saying like basically if there's any Maryland investigators, out there, that there's a location that needs help. So I responded to that, and that began, also an awesome opportunity. That's one of the things I love about this field is a chance to meet people and chat with people that you wouldn't cross paths with normally, basically. And so our opportunity to meet Lilu Altman, who is the manager, basically, of Doodle Hatch, is what it's called. It's an interactive children's museum. It's in Columbia, Maryland. It's basically like 10 minutes from my house, in essence. So it's kind of funny how the interwebs basically, looped in something that was so incredibly close. And, in essence, they were having a lot of activity, and they'd had a lot of activity going on for a bit. Things would disappear and reappear, and there were, little rustlings and noises and feelings of like, okay, there's someone behind me, and there wasn't, and just all these things that had been going on. And I think it just kind of got to a point, especially after a team had come in and kind of basically got some evidence, but still didn't really get down to the bottom of like, what's going on? Like, who is this? And also, it's a children's and it's a family situation that are customers here. Is there a concern? Are people in any type of danger, sort of thing? And so, we came in, and part one is really more of a setting the stage. The amount of video and content that we collected is just stupid, basically. It's kind of silly. So we've had so much to go through. That's why I had to split it up.
Yeah.
It may even get split into a part three, basically. I haven't quite worked out that, but I think we'll be able to put it into a second part, but wait to see. But in essence, part one basically lays out all the interactions that have happened, the sadness that's kind of happened with losing some friends, dear friends, basically. She's processed a lot. Some of this, I feel like, some of these hauntings may be attributed a little bit to what she's been going through. Some of it may be the fact that there are portals that are on the property. We'll get more into that into part two. I think one of the true blessings is the fact that we have a new team member, Ben Kraus, who is very proficient with using divining rods.
Oh, cool.
And his ability in using those allowed us to get information I don't think that we could have gotten any other way. And you'll see a lot more of that also in part two.
That's funny. You bring those up. Those are one of my wife's favorite things. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking at these this morning because right before this show started,
Mm-hmm.
this place, we have the heater on today because it's cold here in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and it's rainy. It's been raining all week, but it's like all of a sudden got like an ice chest, a freezer in this room. So I brought out my dowsing rods,
Mm-hmm.
and I just sat here with them, and they just freeze. They just freeze in the lock, but they don't do nothing but freeze right on me whenever I
Wow.
pull them out and use them. And so that's cool. I like those. I like Sharon is well, we're both very old school, but
Hmm.
Sharon, she goes. People, investigators come up to me all the time. I got no money, but I want to be. I want to really be really passionate about investigating the paranormal.
Hmm.
And I just tell them, go buy one of these,
Yep. Hmm.
get you a pair of these,
Hmm.
get you a little old school little tape recorder,
Hmm.
and that's all you need. And you need you. You need your experience, so bring a journal along and
Yep.
write down your personal experiences. And from there on, they're like, "Oh wow, well cool," and that launches them. But Sharon's very old school. She loves the dowsing rods, and she gets really good success over them, especially when it comes to determining where you might have vortexes or portals,
Hmm.
things of that nature. But I loved that location. I can't wait for part two. And you just never really know where you're going to get called into. I mean, that place reminded me of case Sharon and I worked a long time ago where the I could barely understand the gentleman, really broken English.
Hmm.
He was Hispanic, but I could get enough out of him to where they were at, what they're going through, and come. But it was a radio station, Hispanic radio station. But it was like uh, a small little area in a huge warehouse that was changed into this radio station.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm like, why would a radio station be haunted? And then you start doing your history and research on the place back in the day, like early Vegas days, back in the heyday, like the mob times.
Hmm.
It was a Hispanic bar and dance hall, and there
Okay.
were a lot of shootings and killings there. Fights where guys either got knifed and died or shot and died, drive-bys because it was like a cartel hangout. So I knew, well, there's a lot of negative residue left
Hmm.
on this place. So that your investigation reminded me a lot of that. And what do you take on all comers, or do you have a preference? Residual, not residual, but residential versus commercial or outdoor locations. You've done a lot of work,
Hmm.
like at cemeteries and stuff. Do you have a preference?
Um, so, I mean, basically, our mission is to document the strange, paranormal, and unexplained. So, I've always looked at ourselves a little bit more to say we're documentarians than investigators. Now, that's not to say that we're not investigators. It's just kind of like I always kind of put that forth to be like we're coming in to document experience. Now, if someone you know didn't have a problem with us documenting it but also didn't want to release it, I say that because specifically with Doodle Hatch, there wasn't a problem with us documenting it, but there also was a little bit of hesitancy in like, and I think this kind of like this comes to play is people, especially if they're not used to your work or used to you, they don't really know, well, how are you going to use it? Are you going to paint it in a weird light? Or, is it, are we really comfortable putting, our stuff out there basically? And that's why also a lot of folks don't reach out to folks regardless of whether or not there's cameras involved, because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to have anyone laugh at them or be skeptical of them, or whatever. And so that's where our attitude is, we would go into any place. A lot of our locations are more either known or public, but I really appreciate the stuff that's not in the headlines, that's not something that you can do a little Google search or whatever and it shows up, because those are just always more interesting to me basically. And they're also a little bit more challenging, because then it's become like, part of what we do is get into, even like you mentioned, the heyday and everything of a location is like, well, what's its history? Because that's all part of it. There's so many factors as to why there could be something going on. and understanding that, digging into it. And then also the fact I love history anyway. So it's always cool. Like in this case, this location used to be a giant grocery store. Then it was an international food location. It was empty for a while. Before all that, it was farmland, basically, that had all sorts of things that were grown on it, and even slave quarters that were there. So there's always just these layers. And then you also go down to the ground, and it's like, well, is there water? Is there a stream? What type of elements are going on? Because all of this can end up affecting,
Yeah.
what's causing a potential haunting.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room here. I know
Mm.
that I, I know that usually, not always, but usually it's a red flag to be a little concerned if you're seeing apparitions of children's spirits or what
Mm.
appears to be a child spirit.
Hmm.
That seems to be the biggest way that things of more of a malevolent nature use that image to trick you. So
Right.
that throw up a red flag. But these locations, like where you were at, I think children not only attract ghosts, period, because a ghost might appear to a child and because it's a family member
Hmm.
and they're trying to get some message across to the mom or the dad and they just have the paranormal blinders on and they're not getting any of the signs.
Hmm.
So they go to the child and maybe they can get some kind of message through the child because the child already sees them. Or children's spirits tend to flock towards children.
Hmm.
So not always is it something to be scared about, but it should throw up a red flag. But you've got this place that's all about the children.
Hmm.
Um, are the children experiencing stuff, and have you encountered actual children spirits there also?
So thus far, our investigation, the closest that we've got to that, again with the dowsing rods, we were able to identify a gentleman by the name of Bill Derby. But what makes this also, again, things are layers. So like, and that's also what's great about the rods as opposed to all these wonderful trinkets that are out there is, like a lot of times I think folks think about with rods, it's kind of like, well, are they crossing or are they opening up? And sure, that can be, that could be a yes, this could be a no. But then you also have options of like, well, the rods could point this way, the rods could point that way, the rod could point this way, basically. So there's other options to get into multiple choices, and I just say that because that also allowed us to drill down into what this individual was saying. His name was, Bill Derby. Although, again, the reason why I'm kind of putting that as a question is the last name is a little bit in question because, in a way, he was trying to he didn't really want to be talked to. Kind of a little bit of a grumpy cat. And so he was kind of like almost entertaining, and I think maybe he kind of like just likes a derby, basically a derby hat, so he just kind of like went with that. Again, things that nuances that you don't necessarily you're going to find out using like a spirit box or a K2 meter or a Mel meter or a REM pod or any of these other devices. So that would be one very specific individual. Apparently, he helped build this shopping center from Pennsylvania, died in Pennsylvania. Again, we'll kind of get into his story a little bit more in the part two. But no children spirits. And the most that's been reported from anyone who's visited the museum would be, again, I think probably of like someone who showed up there that was the most fascinating story was related to this gal who she had like I think it was kind of a bright colored purse. We'll call it orange, even if it wasn't, because hey, we just got through Halloween, so orange it's still fall. It's a good color. But she had a purse, and it disappeared. And she's like, where's my purse? I had it here, and it's gone. And so Lilu was trying to help her locate the purse, basically. And they had definitely looked in a very specific location, which was around the entry point, the check-in point, if you will, Lilu's desk to a point. And they end up turning around, and there's the purse. And it's one of those situations where you're just like, I know 1,000% that I looked there and nothing was there, and now all of a sudden the thing you're looking for is there. Like it just suddenly get, like, oh, here you go. Sorry, I took this. And, that was one where clearly that individual was like, all right, that was weird. Now, Lilu's not basically going to say, oh, by the way, we seem to have ghosts here or whatever, because it just becomes that you don't know how people are going to process that. So you're trying to help them out, but also not alarm them or scare them either. But since part one's come out and part two, anyone who happens to see this is going to know basically what's the source of some of the strange things that are happening in this museum.
Well, I love your timing too. This is just me personally. uh, Maybe nobody else feels this way, but it's like if I go to something to watch, like I go to your channel to watch, I would definitely watch anything you put out. Hour and a half, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I've done that on your station, but I love that. I think you were at about 40 minutes on part one.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like that because you see how long something is, and usually you can fit 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, hour into your schedule to watch something you really want to watch. I see so many people post these things that are 2.5, 3.5 hours long. And it's hard to sit down for something that long and watch it.
Yeah.
So I thought that the timing you put on that and to break it up into parts um, was very great, a great move. I don't know if you planned that or if it just worked out that way, but I thought that was a brilliant move.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I mean, basically, and you hear different things, and of course, everyone's going to have a different opinion on this, especially from a creator standpoint. You're sort of told like, oh, people like shorter things because of there's shorter attention spans or whatever. I think that's true on other social platforms. I think that's YouTube. That's kind of like what it's there for, is it is for longer form, and something that's 30, 40, 45 minutes, I do feel like that's a sweet spot. And if I can, that's always a target. We certainly have other cases that end up just being less than that, 15, 20 minutes sometimes. That's where I'm the type that it's like, that's also what's nice about this, unlike, say, networks, where it's like, okay, it's got to be, a certain amount of time to also allow for commercials and other things. At least in YouTube, you have the flexibility to make it as short or as long as it needs to be. But there's the point, is like, I'm not going to stretch something out just to meet a certain time. If we're done with it, we're done with it. And, we'll move on to the next thing. But, part two is definitely going to be more, a little bit over an hour, but it's not going to be 2 hours. And I only think it's going to be an hour and a half, but I definitely think we're going to be over an hour because there's some things that we need to unpack, and it's going to be an interesting follow up.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Well done. Well done. You always do really good. I wish I lived closer to you. It'd be a blast for you and I to work a case together. That would be super cool.
Absolutely.
Um, me personally, I don't know how you feel about this. I find there's nothing sadder to me than encountering a child spirit, and
Mm,
I don't know what it is about that. Um, I used to call them whenever I got these cases, and it was really suspected by everybody that had dealt with it that there was child one or more child spirits involved. I would always call them paranormal amber alerts, and I would call
mm,
everybody that I knew that not only were passionate about paranormal investigating, but they loved kids because I thought that would be a big deal. And we have a park here in town where this park, there's children's spirits seen all over the place.
mm,
There's been a couple of children near that park who had actually been hit by cars and killed. and then they're seen there. But right up against the back of the park is an elementary school.
Hmm.
It's like daycare, and then slash there's a larger elementary school attached. So I went there one night with probably 30 investigators, and we got in a line, and we all held hands to know that that's how close we want to be, but then drop our hands, break out any piece of equipment you're going to break out. And then on my, for lack of a better phrase, command, charge, we would start just walking through the
Hmm.
park
Hmm.
like they do when they search for lost children.
Right.
And we got some pretty amazing results from doing that night at this particular park we went to. But do you have a different how do you feel about cases involving children's spirits, and do you approach those differently than you would any other type of case?
I, thinking about cases, I mean, there's certainly been locations where I think about when we had the USS Constellation. There's supposed to be a young boy that was there who was on the ship basically. I don't necessarily recall any specific interactions unless we didn't quite identify who was whistling on that particular night. It definitely wasn't anyone who was physically there. So, could that have been him or not, or something? Wasn't quite sure. Um, I do think there needs to be a mindset, and my background being certainly, once a journalist, always a journalist. I'm going to come at something skeptical. So, meaning, if there's reports that there is, a child spirit at a location, I think it just kind of becomes like, okay, so all right, these are reports. So I'm going to need to like, investigate and validate and actually, determine if those things are true. If it's like a case that we basically a couple of weekends ago, we had the pleasure of working with Tony from MAP, the Mid Atlantic Paranormal Project. Tony and his group have been the only ones that have investigated a location that's called the Kitty Night Inn. It's in basically, in essence, it's kind of north western corner of Maryland. And one of the entities there is referred to as the captain. And it's a nickname for him because basically his dad was a captain of a boat. This inn is right next to a river. And he basically would go down and kind of wait for him, And so in our visit, it was clear we were interacting with who seemed to be a young boy who, again, with Ben and his use of the rods, like if we were talking about toys, for example, the rods were doing this. And Ben said, in his experience, that's excitement. And I'm like, well, that's cool. I never really thought about that. So Ben's using not only kind of like what the rods are doing, but also his intuition there, basically, to interpret what's going on. And the captain seemed to be very curious, about us because we were only the second team to be at this location, and we spent the night. Still need to review some stuff. I think that especially we had set out some cat balls basically on a dresser. I remember waking up and kind of rolling over, and one of those was going off. No reason for it to have been doing that. There's nothing that would have been a vibration, or no one was near me in any other rooms. But previously in the evening, when we were monitoring through other cameras at kind of a central base kind of situation, a base camp, a different ball on the same dresser seemed to be messed with. So seemingly curious, we basically spoke to him like a child, interacted with him like a child. So with your question of how do we approach it, I think it's kind of like, we'll approach it, especially if there's evidence of interaction and there's response. We'll approach it like, okay, so we're we're talking to, you know, a young lad, basically, in this case, until it seems like either we're talking to someone else or things are inconclusive.
Very interesting. Well, brother, I can't wait for part two. I encourage everybody that's passionate about the paranormal field. It's Unexplained Cases YouTube channel, and it's the latest video that they just put out within the past couple of weeks. So go there, check it out. Um, let's talk about some of the things that I know Annette wanted to talk to you about, and she had put it on our flyer was fogs, mists, orbs, and light anomalies.
Mm.
I'm gonna put orbs and light anomalies off to the side because you get 50 paranormal investigators. They'll call an orb a light anomaly, or they'll call a light anomaly an orb. I personally think they're one and the same.
Mm.
Um, fogs and mists. When she put fogs, and I knew that I wasn't going to talk about ectoplasm because everybody was always says, "Is that a fake thing?" I saw that in Ghostbusters, and yeah, it is a very real thing. But I remember a case where the family would tell me that they would get um, warnings ahead of time, and this is a light anomaly too. If you want to put this in the category of light anomaly, electricity, she said we always knew the spirits were coming because the lights would start to flicker and it would seem like a fog would come down and out of the chimney and
Mm.
start to come slowly into the living room. They would all grab what they could and they would leave. Sometimes they would just sit out in their car for, maybe a couple hours, 3 hours, maybe most of the night and just watch their home. She said sometimes it would be like that scene from Home Alone, where Kevin had the house all rigged
Mm-hmm.
with lights flashing on and off and
Mm-hmm.
cardboard bodies going by the windows. She said it would almost be like that.
Wow.
And then eventually everything would mellow out. The lights would go off. There'd be no noises. They knew it was safe to come back in.
Mm.
I had this crazy notion that they might have even, I call everything that's there to help you a guardian angel, even
Mm.
though some of them might just be disembodied human spirits that are still hanging around and they're attached to you and they're there to help you. They're guides,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe not real angels. And then again, sometimes angels. But I thought something might be warning them.
Mm.
The light flickering and the fog coming out of the chimney
Mm-hmm.
was kind of a, it's coming. Time for you guys to get out of here for a while. I I I can't prove that.
Right.
Um, but when it came to
Mm.
mist to me was always a different thing. I'd always either see an orb or a mist, and I thought mists were more associated with the spirit. I can't tell you how many investigators I've been with all night long at a location, and at the very end of the night, they would say out to the cosmos, "Is that all you got? I come here and I'm here all night long, and all you guys want to show me are some glowing balls floating around and one or two doors open and shut. Is that it?" And I would say, "Listen, man, come on, it's
Mm-hmm.
time to go. You're now getting what's the word I want to use when
You're
you now get
provoking.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time for us to go. Spirits can't help if all they can manage to do is look like a little bit of cigarette smoke around you or
Yeah.
a self-illuminating orb. If
Mm-hmm.
that's all they can muster up, then it is what it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
So anything you want to address on that list, fogs, mists, orbs, or light anomalies, have at it, brother.
Well, I appreciated being able to do a little write up there for your new book. So I was grateful that Annette reached out, and that was the topic we ended up landing on. By no means would I consider myself any type of an expert on that. I mean, basically, I was coming at it from to me, it's all about basically again skeptically looking at something. It's kind of like just because something is happening doesn't mean it's a paranormal event, but also it doesn't mean that it's a normal event. because it's especially when you get into fogs and mists and that happening, whether it's an outdoor or an indoor situation. Outdoor I think would be a lot more common because, of course, you can have atmospheric changes and a fog rolls in, and there's nothing paranormal about that. But if it's outdoors and there's really, the temperature's not changed, there's really no reason for that to be going on, it's worth taking an extra look at to be like, well, okay, is there something else going on here? Which then is a little bit no different from inside. There's a lot of things, a lot of reasons. Again, when you're talking about warm air meeting cold air and what that can produce, it's good to basically, yeah, you might see something, and an HVAC system is suddenly producing, a fog that's like hanging on the ground, and you're like, okay, whoa, that's weird. Not a common scenario by any means, but that's where it's good to just kind of like, all right, let's just kind of break this down, and then therefore, debunk it in essence. But kind of one of the points that I also made is like, as with anything, with any type of event that's going on, whether you're documenting it yourself, or certainly whether you're experiencing it, is if it's validated by other things. Now, what I mean by that is, so if you like suddenly basically for no reason all the hairs on your body stand up, or just one side even basically stand up, you aren't thinking about anything spooky or whatever, it's just all of a sudden it's like, there goes the pricklies basically, and you see a fog or a mist. Okay, you could say that's convenient coincidence, but it's like, well, your body reacted and then you visually saw something. So once you get into the twos, well, now it's worth paying a little more attention to. Add on to that, if you suddenly heard a bang, that wasn't, there's no a source of that bang or that knock. Now again, it's layers of like validating that experience, which is no different than if you're let's say you're on an investigation and you have something that's captured, is again, did your body react to it? Did another device go off at the same time? Because, too often, especially if it's an investigating situation, one singular device is doing something and they're like, it's a ghost. I'm like, no, okay, well, maybe it is, but also there's a good chance it's not. You just have to kind of go through it basically. And just like you were saying, in that I think people come into these situations and they're expecting like, some type of concert or I want to get my money's worth. And it's like, hey, you wouldn't go over just to a friend's house or whatever and have all these expectations about them wanting to, do this or whatever, and you're like, hey, is that all you're going to do tonight basically? What I thought we were going to, paint the town red or whatever. You're hanging out there because you want to. You want to be able to, enjoy the experience of their company. And that's also the way I look at investigation, is like, hey, you're in someone else's space. They're either there a lot of the time or some of the time, but especially if you're talking about someone who, they used to be a person in real life, there's no weirdness in treating someone, the exact same way, instead of, is there anyone here who wants to communicate with me? I mean, would you do that if you walked into someone's house basically? John, do you want to communicate with me? No, I mean, you wouldn't talk to a person like that. And yet sometimes it's just funny how we, treat an entity like they're just some, weird robot or something like that.
What scares you? You've had some scares
Mm.
in addition to your health scare, which it's I keep a lot of logs and take a lot of notes about a lot of things, and a lot of people I know that have been in this field for a long time have all had really bad health scares of one sort or another,
Hmm.
including myself, including my wife.
Hmm.
Um, and we live in a haunted house, so sometimes I think spirits don't mean to be an energy vampire, if you will, and suck.
Mhm.
Some do mean to do that. Some, I think, just being around you, they don't realize they're doing it, but they're trying to absorb whatever energy they can to manifest or make a noise or touch you. And that can have, I think, it's not proven, but I think that can have a drain on
Mhm.
your um, on your health.
Sure.
Um, you've had scares of, you know, things that might have been demonic, things that might have just been disembodied human spirits behaving in a malevolent manner. You've encountered elementals, if you will, that might have been these weird things attached to the land that you
Mhm.
couldn't really categorize as one thing or another.
Mhm.
Now, knowing what you know or knowing of all the things maybe you don't know, what scares you now? What advice would you give to anybody that's maybe just getting started or hasn't ran into who's done this for a while maybe and
Mhm.
hasn't ran into anything dark and just doesn't worry about it? What scares you and what advice would you give for people to be a little be on the lookout?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's kind of like always been a question that we kind of talk about because I think it's also, none of us would be doing this if we didn't like a little bit of the thrill, a little bit of the adrenaline, a little bit of the mystery. I mean, everyone loves a good mystery. So, that's also why we all are, maybe we wouldn't consider ourselves an adrenaline junkie, for example. Some people are more that than not. But, you know, having the excitement, of like finding something and discovering something is a real thing. Um, so I've never like there's never been anything thus far that has basically because when I think of being scared, I'm kind of like for me that definition is all right, I need to get out of here. That's like I'm turning tail and retreating basically. I need to run.
And there's
I,
nothing wrong with that.
no, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that because if you feel that, do not, don't hang around basically. There's a reason why you feel that. So I haven't personally felt that. Have I felt things that are a little concerning that are a little bit like I'm just kind of like, testing what's going on a little bit. I mean, even with this investigation, something that I felt, and again, this is when you interact with people I'll mention this in the part two that we're talking about with Doodle Hatch when Ben was using the rods basically, and I was actually telling a spirit to be like, hey, you need to back off. You're in her space. She doesn't want you in her space. And I remember the rods pointing at me. At the time, I didn't even recognize it, but when I was editing the video, I kind of looked at that as like okay, so I was standing up to, and it's kind of like if you're talking to someone else, it was almost like, basically be bowed up to of like, oh, you're going to tell me what to do, like a normal person would have done. And for me, I'm holding my ground. It's funny, I didn't comprehend that at the moment, but I'm like, no, because to me, I have the authority of God behind me, his warrior angels. So if you want to tangle, basically, you're going to have to tangle with them, and then you're going to be on the losing end of that. But, has there been anything that's been, demonic or crazy like that? I haven't had that experience. I do feel like if I was in that situation, my spirit would tell me about it. And then it would be a case of like, what do you need to do? Engage or remove oneself. Going back to the other point, since I know our time is kind of winding down here, I would just say for folks who are interested in or curious about, to me, it's all about your intent. If your intent is to go in to stir stuff up or to kind of be like, hey, I'm going here because I want a thrill. I want you like, show me what you got, basically. I want you to scare me or something like that. Something will meet you at your need and your want, and you will get more than what you bargained for. But if your intent is to come in and you're being respectful and you're being, gracious, basically, and you're like, you're stating why you're there and what's going on. And it's kind of like you just meeting a stranger for the first time. You don't know them, they don't know you, but it's kind of like, hey, just want to get to know you and hang out and let's have some coffee and whatever else like that. well, you're going to be met with that level of respect. So it's really all about your intentions. And so I always tell people, like, don't, if you're in this for like thrill seeking, there's a lot of other ways to do
Yeah.
that, because you really don't know what you're going to get if that is your intent.
Absolutely. And that's intent probably is at the top of the list because I really, some people get amazed when I tell them the majority of the folks that reach out to me for advice or help
Hmm.
because they have an attachment or
Hmm.
they're being haunted by something that may have followed them home from a location
Hmm.
are a lot of these, and it's not just new ghost hunters. Some of them have been ghost hunters for a while.
Hmm.
They were at the wrong place at the wrong
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
said and did the wrong thing,
Yep.
maybe a little lack of respect for the location, a little lack of respect for the spirits that were there,
Hmm.
and they ended up having problems.
Yep.
So you're absolutely right. That has to be at the top of the list.
Hmm.
Um, Intent, and it reminds me of this person was so excited to have me show up on one of their tours because were so much activity at this location, and there were people there. We went on this tour, and nothing happened. I mean, it was just they couldn't get anybody to answer on the EVP session. They couldn't get anything on the cameras, nothing on film. Nobody was having any experiences. Finally, one of the guys that headed up the tour stopped and said, "Come on, you guys have been so active every time we're here. Why is tonight things so dead? Do you have a? Is there a particular reason why it's so dead tonight?" Bad choice of word, but the voice that finally came through out of nothing all night long in this one um, EVP piece of equipment they had was the Rev. It was there were some malevolent entities there that they didn't just want to deal.
Uh-huh.
Not with me. Because I believe you, I have no magic powers, but
Mhm.
it's what's behind me and what
Yep.
I bring to the fight
Yep.
that had these things. Just we'd rather just
Hmm.
hang out and wait for you guys to get tired of being around here and leave, and then maybe we'll get back to doing the mischief that we've been up to. But
Hmm.
so yeah,
Exactly.
it's all intent. But
Yep. Yep.
brother, before we get cut off here, I want to make sure you know how much I love you and respect you and think you're a super cool dude.
Love you as
And
well, man.
I would love, you're at the top of the list of people I hope to maybe work a case with one day if I can get out to your neck of the woods or you get out to this way. But
Absolutely.
anything you want your fans and followers to know before I kick you out of here?
Hey, well, if you're not doing it already, I mean, clearly you need to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel right now, to Father Shawn's channel for sure. And if you'd also be so kind to follow us, Unexplained Cases, on YouTube. We've got it on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. Not so much on X, basically. We're there, but it's kind of like to check a box, basically. The other ones, that's where you'll find some stuff. Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we appreciate you.
I love you, brother. Have a great remainder to your Friday evening. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you too, man. Take care.
Bye bye. Rick Garner of Unexplained Cases. And we're almost out of time here, guys. We'll be here next Friday, the 28th. It's Happy Medium Monthly with Susan Ahern. Get your questions ready for Susan for your free live on air psychic reading. Thank you to United Public Radio Network for picking up my show. Thank you to all of you for tuning in because I don't have a show without you guys, and I mean that from the heart. Remember, brothers and sisters, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. Stay tuned for Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. We're just getting started here. I love you all. God bless you all in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Peace.